Hello and welcome back to the Awakening Philosophy podcast. My name is Jed and get the ocean going behind me. There we go. We are in the Socrates and Jesus, a Dialogue in Heaven, the play that begins for souls, well, according to the book, when we enter the afterlife, where Socrates uses his art of dialectic to talk with Jeebus. So, before we get into it, we have some questions in chat. Now, I suppose the way of going would be to see if we can find a reflection of what we've been reading in the book, in the puzzles that we have about our own lives. Because as we've been seeing, there is a model of learning that we have to be in a body to go through, and we have to be in the physical world of time and space to play out the parts in time. But it's worth reviewing because we took the time to write it out. Here we go. Having a question, gathering the right opinions. So this is a kind of ignorance, but a good kind. Now you can also have a question about your puzzle, your pathologos, gathering the right opinions from the text, organizing them. That's where we apply the dialectic or make these diagrams and have these dialogues, which is a skill that we practice. And then we put our conclusions into practice, into our life. We confirm our hypotheses in, yes, I got my stuffy back. It was under the table for a while, my new table. Putting our understanding into experience, seeing if we can apply our understanding to reach more meaningful goals in our life. Now this can culminate in what we've been talking about as the idea of the good, or the brilliant light of being. And the nature of this being is not time and space or physical, doesn't have a physical nature. Its essence is a self-contained or mind turning about and knowing itself. That's ousia. Ousia is also the name of the sense that we have that allows us to apprehend intelligence. That's ousia. And also in the symposium, we have a conversation between Socrates and his female teacher, Diotima, saying, hey, by the way, when you do encounter pure mind, use that as a model from which you can develop true excellence, giving us 1, 2, 3, 4 stages and a mysterious 5th that sits above. Now, part of the understanding part is looking for patterns. So what else has 1, 2, 3, 4 and a mysterious 5th? The dialectic has definition, demonstration, division, and conclusion. And there's a mysterious precondition for the dialectic to exist. The hypotheses of Parmenides. Last time we talked about Socrates' other teacher, Parmenides, outlining his hypothesis for the self. Yay, dialectic. And then when young Aristotle said, I don't think the self is likely a pure one, the pure one self that you've been describing. Even though I've followed your dialectic step by step to the conclusion, I don't think it's likely. And then Parmenides says, you know what I'll do? I'll give you 4 other likely hypotheses about what self is, and I'll show you how they're all wrong. He also says, by the way, for each of these 4, you can have their denials, giving us 8 possible ways of thinking about self and reality, or anything, none of which is the right one, giving us stages of development we can move through to reach the self. So that's neat. Making connections. So, with that in mind, if we have a puzzle about our life, we can take what we've been reading in the text and have a conversation about them, and even apply the dialectic to them, so that we can go out into the world and apply it to see if it brings knowledge or insight, or even does it purify our false images and allow us more open to knowing the self. So, question is, what is the difference between natural consequences and punishment in this predicament? So what we've been reading is, so far, punishment is a tool of oppression and is a way of justifying violence. It's done by people who don't have the wisdom to solve problems, but want to pretend to be wise. And the addiction to that is sadism. The cognitive function that, again, got 4 parts here. Now, we talked about these 4 stages in learning. We could also recognize, hang on a second, there are 4 cognitive functions that we can move through, with the mysterious 5th at the top. Here we go. Well, including the mysterious 5th at the top. The bottom one is complete disconnection. The modern Democrats who don't do anything while the fascists take over, because who's to say what's right and wrong? Every opinion is just as good as any other opinion. A massive difference. A disconnection between the whole part, saying different pairs of reason, or pairs of the aspects of reason, the self-logos terms. No connection, only a part, never a whole. Only difference, no sameness, no unity within mankind. No principles, no models, no justice, no nothing. Just Nancy Pelosi and Chuck Schumer and all of those fuckers running around getting their bag while the Nazis kill people in the streets. And make bombs to drop on Palestinian children. So that's disconnection, or a strict dualist, a massive difference. Number 5. Those fascists doing those fascistic things and seeking to inflict punishment, which is saying, hey, I get to be a sadist because I'm teaching you a lesson. There is some ignorance that can't be overcome with learning and understanding. There is some ignorance more powerful than wisdom, and it's not that I lack wisdom. It's that no one, if I don't understand it, no one can. We just have to kill the poors, murder the immigrants, bomb the Palestinians, make the non-rich people homeless. So this is so you could say these strict dualists are the conditions for the fascists to take over, and it's this 4th cognitive level belief that's the cause of human problems. Individually, our own false beliefs that block our development into understanding, but played out collectively under people who claim to speak for God, and they take their own personal beliefs and say God also thinks so, or the state. The law says so. Trump always says, hey, I can do whatever I want because there's a law that says I can do whatever I want. And of course, that is always harmful. Understanding is number 3. Knowing is what we've been wondering about in the last couple of streams. Jesus and Socrates seemed to have an experience of number 2, the brilliant light of being. Only in the Gospel of Mark, Jesus retreated into his beliefs and problems, playing out his tragic end. God, why have you abandoned me? That's where the book ends. The resurrection was added hundreds of years later. Whereas Socrates went on to the self, or true excellence. So punishment, whereas what we have been seeing is while ignorant believers say that we need punishment because otherwise the bad guys win, we see that actually it's through understanding and knowing or wisdom. While we seek our true goal to know the self, this line that we have to cross that solves problems. Whereas we have seen that if we don't do this, we suffer the implications of carrying our false beliefs. We have a shitty life. Our relationships will suck. We will get into conflict. We won't be able to solve problems. And if we ever get into a position of power over anyone else, be it a parent or a priest or a politician or any of those sorts of people, or a business owner, you will end up inflicting your injustice on others as well. Cry bullies. I have to hurt that person because it feels like they're hurting me. So I'm going to hurt them the way I'm imagining they're hurting me. And now that we have AI slop, we see the fascists. Right, there is no right-wing party. It's just the pathologos party. So they need to create a fake world where they are the ones that are being the victim, so they can justify victimizing others. And now they're doing it with AI slop, creating a fake world to lie to people. And of course, what we saw in the last couple of episodes is the fact that we have our own ethical responsibility to go through the application of the dialectic to surface our own false beliefs and remove them. Because if we don't, people will get into power where they can unleash the tyranny of the mindless many. Trump's not a Christian, but he sure does manipulate Christian beliefs, doesn't he? Netanyahu's not a real Jew, but he sure does manipulate Jewish beliefs, doesn't he? Etc., etc. So if we don't do it, not only will we suffer it, we will inflict it on others, and we can be manipulated by other fascists to inflict it on others. So we suffer the implications immediately in how we talk to ourselves, in what sort of world we live in, but also what we've been reading is in our reincarnation. Because this second highest state, the brilliant light of being, is what we all experience to some degree when we die, depending on how well we've developed our understanding. Also, if we've ever practiced experiencing it in our lifetime. Because the separating of our soul from our body allows us to experience this brilliant light of being. We can experience it lots, get familiar with it before we die. And there's Socrates and Jesus had, and also Achilles had an experience of this in the Iliad. So we need to do the work in removing our false image of ourselves, otherwise we won't recognize this as ourself, and instead, whatever false beliefs we've been identified with that have been causing our injustice, we play out a reincarnation to suffer the consequences or the effects of identifying with such a false image. So while there's no hell for punishment, there is a kind of balance in the universe in that we will suffer the effects of our own unwillingness to engage in philosophical midwifery to do this. Philosophical midwifery is the dialectic applied to removing your false beliefs and the cause of your injustice. Philosophy, in the books that we read, is the dialectic applied to reaching truth. Dream analysis is necessary for both. And the final four, again, 1, 2, 3, 4 aspects of the dialectic is sharing it with others. So if we don't do that in our lifetime, we will spend a life identifying with what's false, doing injustice, and our reincarnation will reflect that model and will suffer the implications. So there's no hell, according to what Socrates and Jesus have been reasoning about. Hopefully you've been following along and even practicing those steps of reasoning yourself so you can make it your own understanding, so you're not just believing them. but there is a kind of hell on earth. So Hades can be understood as earth. We carry with us what we need for our own hell. But that wouldn't be justice unless there was also a potential to avoid the bad and get the good. There has to be an openness to learning, which is why any sort of punishment is fucking stupid, because how are you going to learn anything? If a child gets a math equation wrong, do you punish them? No. You help them feel good about themselves and good about maths and make all their material conditions met as best you can so that they can reflect on the principles to understand them and apply them in a way that they missed the mark on. The word sin doesn't mean you're bad. That's the way sadistic believers lie about the translation of the word. The word sin in the Bible is the Greek word amartia, which means to miss the mark. If an archer misses the mark, he adjusts his aim. That's learning. So, no hell, but a kind of hell on earth that we can escape from through the kind of learning that we've been, learning together here. So, with all that in mind, what if you find your friend has cheated on their partner? Is that a reason to stop being their friend if it doesn't directly affect you? Oh, yeah, so how would you apply these principles? The principle of, we're here to learn. And there are stages in learning. We got, where are they on the board? There's another one on the board that we did too. Dun, 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 dun. Dun, 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 dun. I can't find it. Here. So the cognitive states involved in learning and their associated feelings in the body. Getting a question and you feel puzzled. Realizing that you were wrong. And you feel numb or in shock. But that's okay. Following the lead of the logos. So through the dialectic or through the text or through midwifery to discover an answer. You then come to a conclusion. And by the way, the text hasn't given us what it feels like to follow along, but you're doing it if you're following along with this channel. So you can answer what it feels like in the body to be in this third stage of learning. You come to a conclusion and you feel joy. But then you have to apply your conclusion and you realize that the thing that has been binding you to your previous failures and being stuck in hell, Hades, has been a pretense of knowing. I think I know better, says Trump, says Netanyahu, says Hitler, says the priest, says the imam, says the rabbi. That false image of knowing is tied to our false belief about reality and the false image of the self. So we end up dropping that away. Dropping away of the pretense of knowing, leaving us in an open state, allowing us more receptive to go over the process again and again. So, your friend needs to get puzzled. How can you reflect about something that he's doing that's not good, not in harmony with the logos, not helping people meet their needs? Rationally, not rational, not caring, so that he can develop a puzzle. And then begin this process of reflection. So, it doesn't affect you directly, but do you stop being friends with him? You desire to not be friends due to morales. I try to let someone know That's not a natural consequence for their action. That's a punishment in the form of ostracization. When people feel shame and guilt, it often or not makes them hide habits, realizing they can get punished for it, so it makes things subsequently worse. Exactly. So that's the consequence of punishment. You're not learning to get puzzled, realize you're wrong, follow the logos to a conclusion that you have to apply, because it's not just a hypothesis. You feel, you have a feeling state over through all these states, and then you can keep going until you ultimately reach the self, escape the chains of suffering and the prison of reincarnation even. What punishment does is it teaches you, well, it prevents that by inflicting suffering, taking away freedom, and making the root causes of our problems undiscovered. And also, as you're saying, it just teaches people to avoid getting caught. That's exactly what put Netanyahu and Trump in the positions they're in. That's exactly why Trump and his cronies are removing healthcare and food assistance and everything that meets humans' material needs, because they know they're wrong. They know they've been fascist. They know they've been scamming and lying and stealing and raping and murdering. And it's wrong. They just don't want to get caught. So instead, they're having a very what's the word? In their new ballroom that they're using the taxpayers' money to make, they're having their lavish galas, and the Halloween one was in the theme of The Great Gatsby, which is about bourgeois decadence, as they are doing bourgeois decadence. So yeah, good point. Like with addictions, like nymphomania. Ooh.
Where's the passion, dude? We're disgusting. I'm so disgusted.
Sorry. Now, I have changed some of my sound drops. So where's the passion shouldn't be in that one. These are all just insults that are supposed to be here. Let's fix that. There we go. That there. Step.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
There we go. Unbelievable sluts. Drug addictions, or people learn to hide when they feel prosecuted. Also, it's a kind of type of codependency. Believe what I believe is morally correct or right, or I cannot be friends with you. Yeah, that's right. It's just belief, isn't it? Believe me or else. Punishment aligns with narcissistic tendencies. Yeah, so we can replace that with pathologos, I think. Anyway, that's my analysis for the day. A natural consequence is you punched me in the face, I'm not going to spend time with you. Or natural consequences, I do not feel I can trust you if I cannot be truthful to your partner, and I view that as harming behavior. Yeah, so if our job is to follow the logos, that's what we're here, that's what we're here for, then all of the principles that we need for that learning, the meaning of life, learning the logos, the dialectic, would be, well, a necessary moral standard, wouldn't it? How can you learn if you can't talk? How can you learn if you can't reflect? How can you learn unless you can't be honest? How can you be honest if you're getting punished? How can you develop understanding if you're being told you have to just believe me, bro? So yeah, so these are all principles, necessary principles for learning and good relationships. That you can give an explanation for, rather than saying that's immoral. So you can give an explanation of what makes morality morality. Usually give people the benefit of the doubt. Don't do that either. Don't ignore what you're seeing. So that's the thing about our pathologos blind spot. Like Achilles in the Iliad, other people could see his problem. Achilles was the worst person. You don't want to give them the benefit of the doubt, because that will, what role does doubt play in that instance? But if you can see his problem, that's not the same as Achilles being open to reflect on his problem and see it for himself, which he eventually did, but it took the death of his best friend, his cousin Patroclus, for him to realize, I've got a problem and I better reflect. Hopefully we don't want it to get to that stage, which is why having good relationships with good people who you can reflect with and doing dream analysis is so important. Or see the stakes. So hey, if I can't be honest with you, and I need honesty to learn and for a healthy relationship, these are the stakes. Do you recognize how rationally honesty, openness, communication are necessary for a healthy relationship? Do you see how this thing that you did, rationally speaking, prevents that? If so, can you get a question out of it, a puzzle? That you are open and willing to reflect on to find the cause of that problem so you can free yourself from it. But that also means freeing yourself from the family clan tradition that takes courage and character to do. Some people never want to see their parents for who they really were. But until they do that, they'll still have the problem. So if you've seen it, there's no need to doubt yourself that you've seen it. Unless, of course, it's your projection of your problem, which is why everyone doing midwifery and being open to reflection is important. The author of the book, Pierre Grimes, one of the first things when I went to California the first time is everyone that I met before I met Pierre in person was saying, Pierre is great, except he has this problem. And it was always their problem. They all were always projecting their problem onto Pierre. And the better I got in philosophy, the more others would reflect their problems onto me. And then the worse those problems became. Why is that? Because our false beliefs and our fundamental self-image that we don't even know we have, our pathologos, is a problem because it blocks the logos and the self. So the more we are being ourselves, the more likely we are to trigger our own and the pathologos of others. The more we are becoming rational and good, logos, following principles, the more the believers become fascistic or project their ignorance onto you. So we want to be careful that we're not projecting our problems, and we're open to reasoned reflection in a healthy relationship. It's not a one-off, it's a relationship, so we can reflect on the true causes of our problems with help and guidance from our dreams. Maybe they are young and not fully grasping the consequences of their actions. Maybe they have an undiagnosed mental health condition. Well, the name of the mental health conditions, that's interesting because mental health conditions, so psychology is a relatively new subject. And as such, they don't have a model. So they've borrowed the physical medical model from medicine. So they, instead of addressing the true cause of human problems, our false beliefs, in the true way of solving problems, the dialectic, applied to what's false, which is midwifery, they instead give a physical diagnosis. You have ADHD. You have narcissistic personality disorder, blah, 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 blah. And they try and address those problems with medicine. It's not the right model. It's borrowed. What we are learning with the logos and the meaning of the soul and the meaning of life and the dimensions of reality that our soul is to move through, and the big puzzles we are here to awaken, which are, hey, if everything is from the one self or the good self and manifests this understandable, knowable pattern of reality called the self logos into the non-physical realm of pure mind or being, and that somehow causes the physical world of time and manyness and differences, how can the self which transcends all qualities be the cause of the best qualities? And how can that eternal existing best qualities be the cause of the manyness and the divisions and all the problems we face on earth? So those two big problems. How can this cause this? How can this cause this? And the third problem that we've got that we read last time was how is it that the soul can traverse through these three to reach the top of this? How can we revert on the first cause? So if that's the three big questions we're here to awaken, all our problems would be whatever gets in the way of us discovering those three things and doing our best to solve them. Because that's the self-logos in time, reason, intelligence, in time. That's the dialectic. This is the self-logos as a whole. That's mind knowing itself, or ousia. And of course, the self is what we're here to know. What is the self? What are you? What are you really? So what gets in the way? Our pathologos, our false beliefs about ourselves, which means that as we looked at those stages of learning in the positive direction, we see that there is a reflection in the negative. So, to get a question about those three questions of the self-logos are the ones that have come to birth in our text here. And we don't know, and we know we don't know, being stung, philosophical ignorance, into learning about the self, the brilliant light of being, or the idea of the self, idea of the good, and the soul. That's why we read this book, or the Balboa translations of Socrates, Plato. Right opinions. We have to solve them ourselves in understanding, apply that to knowledge that is ultimately the ultimate state of knowledge is the brilliant light of being, and then apply our understanding and our art of dialectic we've used to reach this as the true spiritual method. Many other staff bearers, philosophers are the true mystics. So we can abuse that dialectic and apply it to that brilliant light of being, applying logos and understanding to develop true excellence. Equally in the other direction, do you have a problem? You can't just say to someone, I think you've got a problem, because again, it might just be your problem projected. And the more into understanding, or the more in excellence of self somebody is, the more likely people are to project their ignorance onto them. So can you have a reasoned reflection on what might be causing a problem, or what might be blocking their logos, reason, goodness, reflection, talking, so that they can have a puzzle, not about those three questions we just said, but a puzzle about their problem, their natural koan, the thing that they're here to awaken. The further people are interested in doing this, the more reason they have to have this discussion about what blocks them. Otherwise, they'll just say, I don't give a shit. Yeah, I have all the money, fuck off, says the billionaires. They have to be therefore a good person seeking excellence to be open to reflecting on their issue. Now, the opinions that they have to use to solve their problem come from their dreams and the negative self-talk and states of mind that come up when they seek their most meaningful goals. And that can be a healthy relationship with your friend. or a meaningful discussion with you. Personally meaningful goal. That's where we get the false opinions. And again, midwifery is the dialectical reflection to take those clues and put them together into a conclusion that they can apply, and they don't get knowledge as you do going in the positive direction. You get a freedom from your false image of knowing, because you realize, oh, holy shit, this image that I think that I put on, this mask I put on when I want to be a knower, is an imitation of a parent who crushed me. I don't need it, and it blocks me. So you're going through not a process to reach the self, but a purification of the image of the self. The patho-logos, sick logos. So, same 4 with the mysterious 5. 4 and 5 stages in the positive and the negative. 1 is for pure perfection of the truth. 1 is the purification of the false. And dreams help in both. So yes, that's where our mental health conditions come from. And they manifest as physical ailments as well. They'll physically blind you from seeing or hearing certain things that are inconsistent with your beliefs. The older you get, the more entrenched in them you become. They're less likely to get help if they're scrutinized or ostracized. Yes, this is not a blame game. You're trying to create the ideal conditions for this kind of, 2 activities of the one skill, the dialectic, learning. So while we can say mastering the art of the dialectic is the meaning of life, there are 2 fundamental applications. And 4 if you encounter dream analysis and sharing it, or mythology. So a just world would simply be doing that. Instead of allowing the ignorant believers who have false opinions from childhood that they project onto God or the law and seek to abuse or hurt people because they have a shadow of knowing, cruelty and sadism, instead of allowing those people to be in charge, as we currently do in religion and politics, we would be instead setting up a world to do what we just talked about. Meet all of our material conditions in a rational, harmonious, sustainable, renewable way, freeing ourselves from sacrificing our life for survival, or wage slavery or literal slavery, removing all of the other things that get in the way of this, like punishment or inequality, to create the ideal conditions for this very activity that we are literally born to do. If we don't, we create a hell on earth. If we do, well, not only can we free ourselves from our problems, but we have the potential to reach a higher level of being as a race. Heaven. So whether or not we acknowledge these 5 steps in 2 directions, so 10, which may reflect, you might have fun mapping them to the 10 hypotheses of Parmenides if you include the one that's missing. We either acknowledge these 10 steps of learning in the 2 directions and create a heaven on earth and a heaven within our soul, or we don't and we suffer Hades. Also, not defending cheating. It's unethical if 2 people agreed to be committed only to each other. Yeah, sure. Honesty, truth, connection, shared goal. The whole point of a relationship is to go through this process together with love. Love in logos. Here we go. Love in logos. So you can develop the character that you need, keeping your cool or temperance, being courageous, following the logos even when it feels like it's not true. Wisdom, getting better at the logos so you can be guided by it. and justice, doing it at all times. These are the 4 virtues that Socrates talks about in the Republic. Yeah. Those same principles you can manifest in a relationship together. Reaching higher and higher levels of understanding and experience, culminating in the eternal experience of beauty itself, which is this one here, from which you can both go on to develop true excellence in a way that lasts beyond this lifetime. Which is why we say there's always 3 people in a relationship. There's you, there's your sweet baby, and there is your model that you are both seeking together. The self. Excellence of self. I don't think persecuting people leads to resolutions. Yeah, exactly, you got it. All of this is from the text, by the way. I don't know, maybe they have a legit problem because most normal, emotionally regulated people who have their wits about them don't cheat. So something must be up to them. Oh, everyone has a pathologos, and that pathologos will manifest in every area of their lives, including relationships. So all the cheating is the pathologos false belief. Notice, it has you, you don't have it. Creating the conditions for it to play out its inevitable conclusions. That's fate. This pathologos that drives us to our problems is a kind of self-fulfilling prophecy. That's why it's fate. That's why when you can recognize Achilles' problem, you can recognize how his life's going to end. If you knew Jesus' religious upbringing or childhood, you could tell, oh, he's going to end up like this. Oh yeah, once you know Trump, yeah, he's going to lie. We don't have to make him president. We know what he's going to do. He's going to lie and grift and steal and do his racist shit. Easy. So what people do in our current world that is based on punishment and not learning is be ruled by their pathologos. They are the zombies, and they seek positions of power or privilege where they can play out their pathologos on other people with impunity, creating the conditions for their worst injustice, which they will suffer in the next reincarnation, of course. And they'll suffer because they'll stay stuck in their addiction. Whether it be, I saw an article, Prince Philip, Prince Andrew, whoever it was, one of Trump and Jeffrey Epstein's friends, recently went to a party where he demanded 40 prostitutes be brought to his room. That kind of sick shit. So either so you're creating the conditions for your pathologos to play out, which also manifests as the choice of partner you're attracted to. You'll seek someone like your mum or your dad so you can play out the pathologos patterns you learned about what is loving and knowing from your mum or your dad. Unless, of course, you're into this game. Understanding, reflection, self-reflection. Self and logos. So it's absolutely normal. Everybody's going to create the conditions for their pathologos drama to play out. So he will cheat, and then his partner will yell at him, and he will try and demand that her partner lie like a good believer. Christians have to lie about many, many things: the age of the earth, the existence of dinosaurs, the fact that forgiveness actually makes them feel better. Doesn't. It doesn't solve problems. Every religious believer knows that you have to lie. Every MAGA supporter knows you have to lie. Belief requires lying. That's why it's the cause of human conflict. So he will demand lying like his daddy demanded from his mummy. And your partner has to tolerate it. You just don't know him. He does it because he loves me, or something like that. But eventually she will have a fight, and that's how he learnt you express love, by a heated argument. But then she will storm out and he'll end up alone, And with that conclusion, I guess I was right all along. Nobody loves me. I'm just going to end up alone. That image of himself and reality is the end goal of our problems. All of the shit that comes beforehand, including cheating, is just the steps, the necessary steps that your pathologos takes to achieve that end. Meaning, you start with this false image of yourself. It's the first cause. That's why we address it in midwifery if we're a good person, moral person, spiritual person, all of them. Human being and not a zombie. Your image of yourself is the first cause, but it's also the final cause. That's why it's stagnant. That's why it's a self-fulfilling prophecy. That's also why when you are doing something, let's say meditation, let's say you like to sit on a mat and do meditation. There you are sitting on the mat. And you're counting your breaths. You'll count 10 breaths or whatever your little exercise is. You get to 3 breaths and you notice you're in a fantasy. Many people will play out like for a couple of minutes a little drama. Just like the relationship drama. But eventually it will come to an end, just like the relationship drama. But if you understand that that's all it is, every single thought, fantasy,
Whore.
tangent, distraction.
You've been a bad little girl and you're getting a vigorous spanking right now?
Like that. All of them is a message about your pathologos that you've literally been born to uncover and address. Then you don't have to play out 2 minutes of fantasies or daydreams before you get back to counting your breaths. Do you get back to reading the text? Do you get back to whatever it is you're doing? Shooting hoops. You can find that first image that begins the drama. The drama is the playing out of the implications of that image, and it's going to end with you justifying that image to begin with. Like debates, you come in with your own stupid ass opinions, you have a fight with a debate bro or some academic philosopher who thinks life's about debate or some bullshit, some politician, and you end up walking away with the same false beliefs you came in with. More entrenched because you've had to defend them. Wait a minute, it's also reincarnation. Your image that prevents you from going into pure being, the brilliant light of being, and then recognizing it's me, but also it's not really me, it's the reflection of me. I need to go beyond that to a higher dimension and not reincarnate into Hades on Earth. If that's what we're doing, then we won't be able to do it if we're carrying a false image of ourselves that's inconsistent with the pure light of being and the self. Thus, the meaning of life is literally to do philosophical midwifery, to find that root cause of our negative reincarnations, going back into Hades, the root cause of our fantasies and daydreams and distractions from whatever we're doing, meditation or anything, the root cause of our relationship dramas. It's all the same first cause, but also it's the end. It's the first and final cause. That's its name. Everyone does it. Everyone's trapped. We're all NPCs or zombies. To the extent that first and final cause, the false image of the self, has power over us. Some more than others, and some have a worse pathologos than others. But we're all in it. What we've been learning is ways of getting out of it. We have Xenophanes, which is the first philosopher, Parmenides' teacher, who gave us a little koan you can carry with you at all times, which is, where's Xenophanes? Here we go. So the background tradition is Homer with the Iliad and Odyssey. going through midwifery and dream analysis. Xenophanes has a question: what's the whole of seeing, hearing, and thinking right now? If you take that as a question, you're not certain in your ignorance. That false idea of the knower that becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy, a first and final cause. It's a question. And also, you're not getting wrapped up in the specific thoughts. You are seeing the whole of thinking. You're not distinguishing one thought from the background. You're not distinguishing one object from foreground from background. Same thing with hearing. It's a little exercise that will diminish the effect of your pathologos. Maybe you'll have to try it. Try it for a day, try it for a week, try it for a month. But then Xenophanes taught Parmenides, and Parmenides gave us, so while this is to do with the whole, Parmenides gave us the dialectic, which is how you deal with the parts. So while this may diminish, and your spiritual experiences, however you get them, can diminish the effect of your pathologos, it's the dialectic we get from Parmenides, practiced by Socrates, talked about by Plato, developed by these three guys. So Plato started the academy, Proclus, Plotinus, and Damascius added to the dialectic, and that's the end, because then the Christian Emperor Justinian ended the tradition and began the Dark Ages in 529. That's the dialectic. So those are the two methods for mitigating the effect of the first and final cause of our false image. And what we've been saying is, hey, there's this symmetrical pattern to reality. There's this balance and symmetry and understandability of that balance. Meaning, while we can recognize this false image of ourselves that we get from childhood, derived from our family clan beliefs, that is activated by kings and clergy, priests and politicians who lie to us to manipulate us through our beliefs and images. It's the first and final cause in our problems, all problems, thoughts, dreams, daydreams, fantasies, tangents, relationships. That means that we can use that insight into understanding the other side. So here, in the self-logos direction, what's the first cause of this unfolding of reality? From the self into being, and then being somehow creates the physical world. These are the two questions. And the third question is, we as a self, as an individual self, in a soul, as a soul, our third question is, how do we return to the source? The first cause is also our goal. There is an end. There is a goal. You can have a beer and relax. So there is a first and final cause of the self, the one self that Parmenides explained in the first hypothesis. Meaning, we're master dialecticians already. We have just been seeking the first and final cause of our false image of ourselves as brilliant students to fucking terrible teachers. Our parents who weren't wise, but were compelled as human beings who have evolved the way we have. So the pathologos had a kind of survival mechanism to get people to not think for themselves before we had thinking, so we wouldn't venture out of the cave on our own and get eaten by a saber-toothed tiger before we had ousia and logos. So it's the remnants of our evolution as human beings who have gone through a really unique kind of evolutionary process with the sudden death of the dinosaurs. So we're great students to terrible teachers, and our whole life, as you've said, with relationships and everything, is nothing other than a sick dialectic or pathologos on a sick image of the self. So as we do this dialectic, we justify it again and again in our daydreams and relationships and conflicts and problems. We're meditating. We're meditating on what's crap, just like bankers meditate on money. We're meditators. We're dialecticians, only unknowingly doing it, a zombie-like slave to the false first and final cause. Our job is to realize that, take the wheel, do the real dialectic to purify that false image of self and pathologos, and then use that brilliant nature to go through this movement in the positive direction to the real first and final cause, the actual self. If you don't, your life will just be further solidifying problems. You'll get better and better at escaping punishment, defending your pathologos. You'll become more and more entrenched in it. It manifests as physical ailments as well as relationship problems. You can see with older people, you'll see the lines in their face reflecting their problems, the scowl, because it's the mask we identify with. Therefore, Socrates quote, "The unexamined life ain't worth living," because if you're not examining your life, you are just becoming more fully entrenched in your false first and final cause, your ego or image or mask. So you can see why people who don't have this understanding or the true model of psychic health, mental health, are attracted to the words ego and narcissism. Because it's a catch-all. Ego really means this, but it's not clearly defined and understood as the false image of the self. So it's sort of like it's a general thing. It will always apply. You can always say, you've got that problem because you're ego. Yeah, no shit, it's always going to be true. Or, you're a narcissist. What's that mean? I'm focused on my false image of myself, which excludes me from being able to relate rationally and beneficially to all life, living and non-living beings on this planet. Yeah, that's the fucking pathologos. So they've borrowed the medical model of diagnosing physical through like a kind of a wrongness. You've got this sickness or this sickness, you're wrong in this way. And they've got two words that's a catch-all for all problems: narcissism and ego. That's why if you're ever doing an English paper in a regular school, just say the problem was hubris, because hubris is another catch-all word that means the negative implications of your false image of self or ego, and your the tragic conclusion or fate of your being blinded by your pathologos or narcissism was the cause of your problems. Hubris. He thought he knew what he didn't know. Yeah, always. That's why it's a funny term. It's because it's silly. It's like saying he's got a problem because he had a problem. Yeah, no joke. You've got a problem. I think you're a narcissist. Well, yeah, you're just saying you've got a human problem and I think it's a human problem. You've got an ego. You've got a human problem and it's human problem. These are nonsense words. Because they're too general in scope, and they prevent you from actually understanding the root nature of human problems. The false first and final cause, so meaning you don't have to play out that relationship problem again. So if you're in a good relationship with someone who has a good heart and a good mind, get yourself a girl who can do both.
Okay, go ahead.
Then, as soon as you have one problem, you can reflect on, hang on a second, so I don't play out the implications in the drama over and over again in my dreams, fantasies, tangents, random thoughts, and relationship difficulties, and all that shit. It's all the same. It's always the same. So I don't play it out again. Let's together, because we can hold hands in love and logos, let's together reflect on the root cause. The fundamental, unsuspected, false image of myself that I identified with, that plays out the implications here and ends with me confirming that false belief that I had to begin with. First and final cause. That's learning. That's what we're here for. Because the nature of this self-reflection, the nature of this self-reflection is the dialectic that we are here to master. The model of spirituality, the model of learning, the model of evolution. And because it's a skill that benefits, it's called an art. So with love and logos, you're perfecting the art of dialectic, which is a win. You're removing the false first and final cause, which is a win. And you don't have to repeat the same problems again and again, which is a win. It's a
win-win-win-win-win.
It's a
win-win. Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win. Win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win. It's a win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win. See? That's the game. So formal psychotherapy will just be doing this in an office building. A just society will be doing this, but with some people organizing it called the government, so we don't have to worry about organizing it and creating buildings and organizing how we meet our material conditions to facilitate this. A just spiritual tradition, well, it's the same thing. It's this. You are gurus. You are mystics. Many are the people who carry the staff, but if the dialectic is specifically as defined by Socrates, Plato, Proclus, and all the others, Parmenides included, if the activity, if everything in philosophy, if you read the dialectic, there are 10 books. The first 7 books lead to the dialectic as the activity of the philosopher and the art of the logos. So if you have this kind of a relationship with your friend, with your friend's boyfriend, with your own partner, with your own mind, you're doing the thing you're here to do. You are a sage. You're a guru. You're in the Dharma succession line. Dharma lineage is the lineage of this teaching tradition. And all this is from this book, which is fun to read anyway, so.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
The win-win, because the book is awesome. I'm just like, if they're your friend and like actually your friend, why not talk to them about why they did it? Yeah, that's the activity, to reflect on everything you live in your life and all those areas, dreams, tangents, fantasies, relationship problems, etc. These are experiences. Experiences are dead. It's the understanding that we're here to create from it. And it's the understanding you can only do in a body. In the physical world of becoming. Because we experience, so time, the word that Socrates uses for time, it's a moving image of eternity. If a being is eternity, and we can't participate in it if we have a false image of the self, we experience the reflection of that as a moving image of eternity to play out the implications of that false image, but also giving us the conditions for understanding and dialectic to learn how to remove this, to learn the art itself, and also, hey, you can come back and forth from being, because dialectic is also a meditation, to understand this and understand its cause, bringing this art of dialectic and understanding with you to the self, which is important because there are some people who may have an encounter with the self and might call it emptiness or nihilism or nirvana, because they don't have the understanding of the art they're here to develop. And also they have their problems. So yeah, we're here to talk. What we're doing here is learning how to talk. Because we're all talking, all problems manifest from our human psyche. Before an ace agent kidnaps and murders a brown person, he has a shitty state of mind. And to go out and justify his kidnapping, he has to talk through lies and hateful ignorance. All we're doing is recognizing what's the ideal state of mind or psyche or kind of soul, and what's the ideal functioning. Which includes speaking, seeing, speaking, and acting. Turns out, the ideal functioning, how you see, how you speak, and how you act is to do the dialectic, to talk according to the structure of the dialectic, to see the dialectic playing out in people's life, either as a dialectic on the false image of the self causing their fate or problems, or the dialectic as somebody pursuing their excellence, being genuine, being open and curious to reach the true nature of the self, which is their highest goal, destiny, and purpose, the true first and final cause. So seeing, speaking, and acting through the self-logos or the art of dialectic. What's the ideal state of mind? Mind itself. Usia, or the self-logos, is not just experiencing it, but also recognizing it as a whole. That's the brilliant light of being. The self-logos through time or parts. That's the physical world. That's our ideal, excellent, ideal functioning in the physical. Or Hades, because we play out our hellish problems there. And that ideal state of mind is the world of being. The spirit, or the brilliant light of being. Meaning, our ideal hero, the greatest hero, Hercules, can be both in Hades and feasting in heaven at the same time with the gods, because his ideal state of mind is here while his ideal functioning is here, and both are the self-logos, which gives rise to an even greater question. If they're both the self-logos, one as a whole or one as parts, what then is the first and final cause of both? This one. So the self-logos, that's beyond any qualities and experience, but is also the cause of qualities and experience. It's also the agent. It's the highest and most profound, but it's the most immediate. It's the most intimate. It's you. Something's got to be going through the ups and downs of Hades, including the highest positive experiences. So the highest positives is this feasting with the gods in heaven. That's the highest positives. Plus, there is an agent that is also the cause, but the agent experiencing. But also it's our goal. And our goal. Therefore, this is the first and final cause. It's our purpose. The word that means at the purpose of all beings is destiny, while our problems is the negative first and final cause, the false self-image, which chains us to fate. So those are the two activities: reaching destiny, escaping fate, removing our pseudo-excellence, achieving true excellence, removing injustice, perfecting justice. It's always two. Midwifery, the dialectic to purification. Philosophy, the dialectic applied to perfection. First and final cause. And our purpose. This one, the self. Or the one self. So yeah, all problems are caused by a, so we can also take this one step this way as well. The ideal self, or excellence of self. And of course, that's what we're here to figure out. So that gets the question mark. So all problems are a acting, seeing, and speaking. Hey, the ICE agents that are doing the Nazi shit, or the Israeli army people doing the genocide. They see the people who look different from their family as other, or as wrong, or as criminal, or as heathen, or as less than human. They speak in that way, and they act according to that. So all problems is a seeing, speaking, and acting in functioning in Hades in the physical world, but has its cause every single ICE agent or military person or cop. You don't have to wait until they murder people, because you can recognize their state of mind. Oh, you're a racist Nazi? That's why you joined ICE? That's why you're covering your face? That's why you joined the Israeli army. State of mind. That's the root cause. Until we recognize that there are levels of states of mind, we're not going to solve any of these problems. Therefore, materialism or Aristotelianism, saying there is no mind, it's just the brain, is fucked. Modern philosophy is fucked because they listen to Aristotle and not Plato, Proclus, Plotinus, Damascus, or most importantly, Socrates and Pierre Grimes. Therefore, there is no mind, there's just the brain. That's crazy. It's wrong. It is itself what a kind of pathologos. So we are seeking the ideal or excellence in our functioning in the physical world through time. That's the dialectic. All problems are its opposite: debate, fascism, silencing conversation, lying, politicians, belief, religion. The ideal or excellence in state of mind, which is the self-logos perceived as a whole of mind knowing itself through ousia. That's the brilliant light of being. Negative states of mind cause functioning in a negative way. And the ideal or excellence of self, the one self. Meaning, if we ever want to actually put our big boy pants on and finally stop human problems and suffering, we need to recognize these three elements. You're never going to solve human problems unless you address the false image of the self that people carry. And because they don't know they have it, we have to look at the conditions they were in and the beliefs they derived from those conditions in childhood that manifest in their life, causing their problems and causing the world we live in. You can only solve human problems by addressing its cause. All problems by addressing its cause. If you want to address human problems or problems of those who identify with a self, you have to find its root cause. The self that manifests through a state of mind that functions through time. And that functioning just justifies that bullshit state of mind and justifies that false image of the self, making the root cause of human problems a false image of the self that's the first and final cause. Equally so, but on the opposite side, the ideal or excellence is the self knowing itself as pure being here, as the ideal or excellent state of mind, and then functioning through that self-logos in time. That's the dialectic. That's Hercules. Hercules is feasting with the gods in heaven with his state of mind, functioning with the shadows in Hades, but also knowing the self. So, two things: the false image of the self or the real self. The real first and final cause or the first and final cause of problems. Rationality is not having to play it out in states of mind and functions in drama, either in time, in, war, in conflict. Rationality is reflecting on the first cause. How many times does your car need to break down before you realize the cause is you didn't put petrol in it? Just like that. So that gives us a model for what would be an ideal relationship. Can you be engaged in that kind of reflection on the first and final cause? Either your problems or your excellence. Love in logos. This stuff happens every day. Yes, every day. That's all we do. If we were free from it, we wouldn't have to reincarnate into Hades to play out the implications of the false. That's all we're doing. So while I admire some people like Sam and Emma on the Majority Report,
That one's perfect and exactly the case.
there'll come a time when, even though it's important to document all of the negative functioning and even do commentary on that negative functioning and talk to experts about what would be the best kind of functioning in that scenario, there'll come a time when someone is going to have to say, let's fix the problems. Let's understand the root cause of these problems, because it's becoming very clear that these are Nazis. And I thought we addressed the activities of Nazis in World War I and II. We did. We didn't solve the problem because we didn't address the cause. Eventually, hopefully, they're going to look at states of mind. I think they're getting close to that because they realize all of these ICE thugs are all fucking racists looking for an opportunity to play out their sadistic states of mind and racist states of mind.
If you're experiencing a mental health episode, we don't want to have to see that.
Exactly. We don't have to see it anymore if we do this. But then if once they recognize that it's states of mind, again, any materialist or Aristotelian bullshit is going to say there is no mind, it's just the brain. That's going to stop you from learning. So you better address that. After we've recognized there are different states of mind people are in, and all of their action is just the playing out of that as a cause, that state of mind has a cause too, that's the false image of the self and our false beliefs. That'll be a challenge because as the good people, like the majority report in Emma,
They're secretly turned on by it.
yeah, okay,
All checks out.
all checks out. They also have their problems caused by their beliefs that they're fiercely loyal to. Meaning, as they start to recognize the actual root cause of the problems they've been documenting, they will want to say, but not my beliefs. Not my Jewish beliefs, not my Christian beliefs, not my family beliefs, not my beliefs in Marxism or my beliefs in socialism. All beliefs fall down and are the cause of problems. The model is the logos. And that's not a belief. It's understanding. You follow the logos through the dialectic. You can experience the dialectic as a whole in the greatest state of mind, like Hercules, the brilliant light of being. Socrates and Jesus also. We're just talking about it. But that's not the end. The self. So once we realize that, we can realize that there is a single meaning to life, to mastering the art of the dialectic, playing out in many, many different ways. Everyone has their own take and their own personality and their own art that they like to express it through. But it's still rational. Like, we recognize everyone has to, even though everyone drives a different car, we all got to obey the traffic rules. Even though we have different personalities, we still have to do math properly in any job. Otherwise, you know, if the house falls down or the plane crashes or whatever your job is, equally so, we all have to master the dialectic and we all have to discover our false self and the true self. Again, it requires open-mindedness and courage and doing something new. It requires to be a good being.
I'm too pure. The primary purpose of pools is not to murder. It is for enjoyment and cooling off.
Exactly, and the primary purpose is not to murder people through the false image of the self, but to have enjoyment and cool off with the true self. Well said, Emma.
I think it's awesome.
I think it's awesome too. Because they... Oh, I gotta catch up. Because they don't believe in what I do and my morals, so I need to punish them. Yeah, exactly. So the dialectic can bring you to truth if you are in the logos, in understanding, because the dialectic is a steps of reasoned questions and reflection that will always lead to truth. 1 and 1 will always equal 2. Belief isn't. Belief is fucked. Belief is wrong. So how do you convince others to believe in what you do? Sadism, punishment, violence, war, genocide, inequality, enslavement, capitalism, Nazism, fascist communism. It's always the same. To force people to act against what's good and beneficial to justify the bullshit beliefs that you carry because you haven't fucking done your job and reflected on your false beliefs from childhood and the underlying self-image that you have identified with as a result. Exactly. All right, Awakening, I signed up for nursing. I will miss you in the spring. Oh. Well, hopefully, as you're doing your nursing, you can put the stream up on a big video screen, so you can watch the stream as you work. Or tune in to my VODs after. Don't I stream when you're like at nighttime? So don't you get to watch me when you're in the evening anyway? On my way to becoming financially independent to leave my ex. Oh, I hope you do. Again, that's one of the ways of oppressing people. Freedom to meet your removing the freedom. As punishment removes the freedom to reflect on these three. Cause of our problems. Financial freedom is needed. Which is the next stage of evolution. So we no longer have to sacrifice our life for survival. Looking for jobs and getting bumped out so many times, and I was like, well, I guess I'll go and be a nurse. 30 jobs, yeah, that sucks. Jobs aren't coming back, people. We need a new system. Thank God. Who wants to fucking work in a coal mine if we can get machines to do it? And we don't need coal anymore. Come on, time to wake up. You know how many people told me to stay with him despite the fact he put me in a job? Oh, don't listen to those people. It sounds like he might reflect the same false pathologos that they have if they can't see how bad he is. Which may be why you chose them as friends and you chose him as a partner. They both reflected your false model of excellence and beauty that reflects, again, it's history here. But it's not my job to tell you that. It's like Achilles, he had to discover. Hang on a second, why am I attracted to these people over and over again? Betty, you keep getting into a relationship with the same guy. No, but he's different. Betty, why can't you see? Because it's her blind spot. It's her pathologos. But it is able to be seen if we go through the process of dream analysis and the dialectic to reflect on that model of excellence and its origin, the imitation of parental figures. I never want to ever date again. Well, yeah, don't date someone who reflects the false images and of beauty and strength and knowingness from your parents. Yeah, don't date another zombie. That's courage. So the person that you're going to choose to date next has to reflect the logos, which is weird because you're not going to be used to it. They might not even look attractive straight away. It might take you getting to know them to see, hang on a second, they have a beauty in their soul. They reason, they reflect, they address causes. They want what's good. They're kind. I didn't find them sexy straight away. I still might not. That's courage. Courage to follow the logos, even though your pathologos tries to pull you to repeating your problems over and over again. So in other words, don't give up. Don't give up. Parmenides, Socrates' teacher, told him, don't give up. That's the worst condition. Socrates said that's the worst condition. Don't give up on the logos. Yes, it sucks. It sucks because the people we trusted the most to follow the logos, to value our self and understanding, they betrayed us. Absolutely they did, and it fucking sucks. But that's not a problem with the logos. That's a problem with you not yet seeing the logos good enough. Don't give up on the logos. And don't give up on people. Or love. Instead, find the difference between seeing the true beauty of the logos in people and in reality. The difference between the truth and what you've been carrying. This is the problem with atheists. Well, if the religion people told me God was this and they're full of shit, then there must be no God. No! Just because they fooled you doesn't mean it's wrong. Just because the Nazis say the true idea of we have the one and only idea of justice and it's hurting people doesn't mean there's no justice. Don't become a materialist like Aristotle or an atheist or a what's the word? Nihilist. Don't give up. And recognize that however much you can do, however much true beauty in another person that reflects the self and the logos, that you can see and wonder about and reflect on, whether you can be with them or not, or hey, find someone like them. I don't know. In other words, whatever you can do in mastering the logos and freeing yourself from the pathologos, it will be a win. Because your soul is eternal. Your mind is eternal. And whatever you can do about the logos and pathologos here will affect how well you can participate in the brilliant light of being when you die, and whether or not you reincarnate. And if you do reincarnate, whether you reincarnate into a soul with greater intelligence and care, or ignorance and cruelty. In other words, how hellish will your reincarnation be? So yes, it sucks. It sucks with capitalism. It sucks that we live in a topsy-turvy world where the most ignorant believers, the most sadistic and cruel, are kings and clergy and CEOs. The absolute worst people are in positions of leadership, causing the worst conditions in the world, while the best people are being subjugated by them. It fucking sucks. But however long you have, you can spend that time doing the logos and mastering the dialectic and freeing yourself from your pathologos. And that includes relationships. Getting trapped is a gigantic fear of mine. Yay meds, boo meds. Oh, spam bot. Spam bot.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
No, hang on. I've made a new spam bot sound drop. Let me make sure it's loaded properly. Do it? Because I always get a spam bot. Why is it playing? Why? Oh, I see what I did. Here we go. Spam bot.
It is spam. They are trying to convince them to flood the internet with spam.
So, like, not only have you been wrong on like 3 or 4 different things at once, which is already offensive enough, but you did it in the most annoying way.
I'm a human. I don't listen to robots. You don't talk to me, you robot. Shut up.
We have new drops for the spam.
And this is spam.
Yeah, it's spam.
Don't be disgusting.
Don't be disgusting.
Further fill the internet with spam and AI slop.
Yep. Bad bots can't behave. Thanks for explaining, Awakening Senpai. You're welcome. What does Senpai say to the student? Seito? Ii seito desu ne. Blogs. Blogs. Wee. I don't know what blogs are.
I'm cute. Like, it's cutie pie.
Still working on myself. Yeah. That's what we're doing here. Because everything that we've been reading, we can apply to these real life experiences that give us an opportunity to nurture what we're learning. It's only the same thing. There's either a real self or a false self. The drama is just a playing out of those through states of mind and actions, which is why dream analysis looks for those things. Dream analysis is working backwards. What can you see in the actions? In this, where have you been blocked in your seeing, your speaking, or your acting? In the drama. In other words, look for the problem, like your friend. He's not going to reflect on the cause of the problem unless he can see he's actually got a problem. Then in dream analysis, you look at the states of mind. You can map the states of mind, the ups and downs in the dream. Positive states of mind, and then you negative states of mind, and then you go up, and then you can map them. And you can either look at the highest state of mind or the lowest, or where you end. Few options, or where you start. There's lots of different ways you can go, but it's states of mind. Then often dreams will tell you about the negative ones, and you can trace it back to uncover the false image of the self. Or for the positive ones, what can you learn about the self? It's dream analysis. And that's important to say. So that's another reason why today's reflection is worthwhile, because the book that we've been reading has been saying over and over and over and over again, dreams are super important. And our intellectual tradition, or our spiritual or philosophical tradition, has lost dream analysis. Oh, my back's fucked. I'm trying to get a better bed. Because after we killed Socrates, we lost dream analysis in Plato, and then the following teachers, Proclus, Plotinus, Damascus, and then of course everything ended in the Dark Ages with Emperor Fuckface Christian Emperor Justinian. And modern materialism isn't philosophy, it's philodoxia, love of opinions. It isn't the dialectic, it's debate, or philonikos, love of conflict. It's not love of wisdom in philosophy, love of the self in philophronesis, or even love of learning in philomathesis. It's philosomatos, love of the body, manifesting in people seeking wealth, philokrimatos, and fame, philotimos. So that's where we are, that's modernity. But we can turn it around by returning to where we left off in Socrates and picking up dream analysis and midwifery. And Socrates has been making that point time and time and time again. Dreams are super important and necessary. But we don't have a book on dream analysis yet. But that reflection we've just gone through can help us see what we would need to look for. If we're looking for either the ideal or our problems, it manifests, or we see it in its demonstration or functioning. Its root definition is a state of mind. So definition, demonstration, and the mysterious fifth term of the dialectic, the self. In other words, we can trace this back through the drama that plays out in our dreams. That the first thing you do in dream analysis and say, how does this reflect the drama in your life, in your relationships, in whatever it is you're doing right now, in your present. So that's important to have this map that we've been developing from this book that bangs.
Making ice cream is a good and courageous thing.
Exactly. And reading this book is good and courageous like ice cream.
Is this chat full of Where's the passion, dude? Where's the soul?
Passion and the soul is in this book. And now that we've mapped it out, we can also use this map because it's the dialectic, always true forever. It also is true for dreams. That's a big puzzle. If Socrates is really laying into us, stressing for us how important dream analysis is, well, we got to figure it out, right? I never found my ex-partner attractive. Or there's something that drew you to him to accept him. It's pretty much a forced relationship via my mum. What? But that's for my therapist to deal with. Well, your mum obviously chose someone she thought was good and beautiful. Same deal, right? It's not for your therapist to deal with, it's for you to deal with, because that's literally why you're born. To master the dialectic, to find your root models of beauty and truth. Hey, if you didn't choose it, well, in some sense you did, but you still listened to your mum. You still thought she was true or caring or knowing or good. And it turns out that was all bullshit. So you got to find out why you still believe her, which requires dream analysis and midwifery. Be in a relationship or be homeless. Hooray, terrible parents. Yeah, you still, again, you don't have to accept their premises unless you think they're right. Trusting and having confidence in myself so I can do things and be independent. Right, so what this game is to move beyond trust or belief, to see and speak and act according to your true self that you experience directly as the highest state of mind. If you see it and understand it, do you have to trust anyone? Now you might say, well, actually a kind of trust is needed in Socrates and Pierre Grimes to begin the book. And all right, fair enough. I'll give you that. It's like you have to trust that you can be a nurse, that there is such a thing as nursing for you to, pick up the nursing textbook or join the school. So yeah, I guess there's an element of trust in the logos, but only enough to get you started. Justified trust, though, like everything we've said, makes sense, right? Is rational, right? You could apply any part or the whole, everything we said as a whole, and you'll find it has to work, and it will work. So you can not only understand it, but also verify it in your own experience. When you give up, you end up just letting whoever take control of your life, I suppose. Exactly. So even your decision to give up is still a reflection of that false image of the self that's wrong, and you are here to address and free yourself from. You're right, letting the letting the zombie virus take over. It's a zombie virus because it infects you. You don't have it. Painful lesson I learned, so regaining control. Yeah. Right on. Yay. So I just asking myself why I gave up and stopped caring, I suppose. That's a harsher reality than why then anything to work through. It's tough. You think that your house is the whole world. You think that your parents are wise and knowing because they presented themselves. This is the kind of injustice we're here to address. Justifyingly pretending to be wise and caring when they weren't. They were fucking not. That's very difficult for a 3 or 4 year old to realize, considering you're dependent on them and that's all you know. So our job is, once we leave the house, once we're out of there, we're out of the house, we can reflect on that and clean up the baggage, clean up the mess. But also realize that we needed to have that mess for our soul to have the conditions to get presented the negative acting of our family and the negative playing out of their states of mind that we end up believing, giving our false idea of the self, because it's that false idea of the self we have to address. In other words, the conditions for our problems are a gift, so long as we can solve them. That's what we're learning how to do here with the dialectic and midwifery and dream analysis. Adding the balance. Cause and effect is one thing, but it ain't justice unless you can cause the good and avoid the bad, or create the conditions for the good. In other words, learning. So one reason to keep going is, you're my main chatter. And while our world has devolved into problems because of Emperor Fuckface McGee, and Aristotle, the only way we can make it a better world is by going back to where we left off in our development of the unfolding of the Logos, which is Socrates. And the only way we can do that is because we've had the philosopher Pierre Grimes recreate in his own work dealing with alcoholics and things, recreating philosophical midwifery, realizing that Socrates was saying the same thing, rediscovering dream analysis, realizing Homer was saying the same thing, and allowing him to go through dream analysis and midwifery to free away his false beliefs so he could actually read the Logos properly and learn the dialectic that Plato and these bods talked about. So the very thing we needed to talk about, talking about Emma before.
The primary purpose of peanuts is not to murder, it's to eat for sustenance.
She says things like that on the Majority Report, but we're saying, well, eventually they're going to have enough of looking at the functioning and even commenting on the functioning and even talking to experts about different functioning that would be better. Eventually they're going to say, well, let's look at the causes so we can put an end to this shit. Which will mean looking at states of mind, which will mean the Logos, metaphysics, rediscovering Plato. We can only rediscover Plato because we have the Balboa version, and we only have the Balboa version because one Balboa went through midwifery and dream analysis, allowing him to translate properly, unlike all of the other bullshit translators. Bullshit translations because they had their own false beliefs they're projecting. And the only way that Balboa got into this was because of Pierre Grimes midwifing him and doing dream analysis with him and encouraging him to do it and stick around, stay alive and do these translations. So we can find the states of mind, and because of Pierre Grimes, we can also find the root cause, the self. So that's Pierre Grimes. Bringing us back to Socrates. Who else is reading Pierre Grimes? Who else is sharing it the way that we do here? And who else is participating in this kind of reading in the chat? Meaning, if the only way of solving problems is others are going to rediscover the art of the dialectic from Socrates, it's going to be us and the people we end up talking to, inspired to get into it. So don't give up. Don't give up on relationships, because if you can find someone to share this quest in.
I'm looking for someone to share in an adventure.
Someone who you're attracted to because they're intelligent, they love understanding, they've got a good heart and a good head. Pierre Grimes would say, if you're ever sitting down next to someone, make sure you sit down next to the smartest person that looks the smartest, so that you can perfect what you're here to do, the dialectic, free yourself from the problems, but also share it with others. Because who else is going to share it with the world? I mean, there's only so much I can do in the chat rooms of the good streamers. Or in the chat rooms of the Majority Report before they're going to kick me for essay writing or something. I get it. What I'm saying is weird. It took me many, many, many years and lots of sacrifice to be able to see what Pierre Grimes and Socrates were seeing and to be able to communicate it. So I know it's not easy. So I know they want to kick me from the Majority of chat. Emma will say,
Freaks. Please end kink shaming on your show.
Exactly. She'll say that about my stream.
I've been a bad little girl. It's a total shit show.
Yep.
Okay, go ahead.
There's only so much I can do, but if you're doing it too, then that's double the goodness. So that's another reason to stick around and don't give up. And also to free yourself from the images and beliefs of your parents and family. To know yourself and show yourself. And to seek a relationship where you can play that game and have fun. Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy?
Where's the joy? Where's the whimsy? Where's the childlike wonder, dude?
So you can have joy and whimsy and childlike wonder as you play this game, dude.
I find that very entertaining.
So another good reason, like not the most important reason, the most important reason is to do what you can in whatever time you have about the logos. So Pierre would say, sometimes at the beginning of meetings, Pierre would say, how's everyone's reading going? Like you got to have your nose in a book like we have. And also in your dreams. So you got to be doing both. How's your reading going? How's your dream analysis going? People say, oh yeah, pretty good. Are you doing some dialectics? Yeah. Oh, been busy, but yeah. Then he would ask this question. Okay, here's a better question. When are you not doing this reading or dialectic? How many hours a day are you not doing it? Because that's the better question. Thumbs up in this one. Whee. In other words, Socrates says the same thing. He says, look, some people are born into really unfortunate situations and they spend they're like got illness and things like that. And they spend all of their life fighting their illness to live longer. Socrates says, well, don't do that. That's silly. Instead of spending your life just trying to sustain your life, spend any moment that you have learning the logos and dialectic. Discovering the false image of yourself that caused your reincarnation into Hades, caused your suffering and illness to begin with, and use the logos and dialectic to recognize and experience the true nature of reality and to go beyond to know the self. So when you die, you don't reincarnate back around into this hellscape again. Rather than spend your life extending your life without doing that. The same case can be made, Pierre made the same case for dreams. If dreams reflect your problem and your excellence greater and more intelligibly than your everyday problems, then what are you going to do? Spend your lifetime reflecting on dreams? Would that be a better spending of your time? However time you have here? If you're fortunate enough to reincarnate into a lifetime where you come across a philosopher, considering how scarce they are, then you're very, very fortunate. You must have done something really well in your previous lifetime, which is also the end of the Republic, by the way. Choosing a life where you can run into a philosopher. So whatever time you have here, don't end it. Don't end it short. If you are one of the few who run across a philosopher, especially if you have the nature of heart and mind, the nature of psyche, of soul, allowing you to understand and see the value of them and listen to them. You know how many people listen to what I say? Almost no one. Part of the reason I'm a musician, but that's another thing. So if you value understanding and you're open to it, that means you must have done something pretty good in your former lifetimes, because when you died, you were able to endure the brilliant light of being more than most, which ended up with you having a better kind of soul, more open to intelligence, ousia, and logos, the very qualities you need to be an intelligent and open-minded and reasoning human being. So you've done some good work to come across philosophy and to have picked a lifetime where we have the works of Pierre Grimes and the Balboa translations of Socrates. We have what we need. We didn't have it a generation ago. So you're very, very fortunate. So you've rolled, what's it called in D&D? You've rolled a good character. You may even say, well, I've got difficulties. I wasn't the big man on campus, or I wasn't born into wealth and privilege like Donald Trump. Yeah, but what's the odds Donald Trump will ever come across a philosopher? 0. Even if he did, what's the odds someone who grew up in pretty privilege and popular and good at sports games and was able to be loved by everyone? If you're loved by everyone, everyone would want to keep you stuck in your beliefs of that tribe. So you would have had to have picked a certain kind of reincarnation, which seems on the surface to kind of stink. But without it, would you have come across philosophy? The most important thing. And if you were tied to everyone because you were president and everyone wanted you to be a Christian or to be a MAGA or to be a whatever, or you were born, the big man on campus and everyone wants you to be like them and everyone loves you, and are you likely to change your beliefs? No, you'll be more Christian, you'll be more capitalist, you'll be more racist or whatever. So if you've come across a philosopher and you're open enough to be able to listen and reflect on it, you've made a rare and fantastic role. Don't waste it. Don't waste it. Do whatever you can to master the logos and dialectic while in whatever time you have here. And that even might be for our species. Maybe we don't successfully share it with enough people, and the fascists put an end to the world. It could happen. It's just as likely as if we are successful in sharing it. But we can still do our work for our own soul. It'll suck more to live in this world ruled by pathologos, ignorance, but still, we have the stream, we have the Discord. I'm barely keeping my head above water with music. One day I'll make it big maybe and be financially comfortable enough to stream more, do more, teach more, maybe even travel to California, where there are more open-minded peeps. So yeah. Why did I stop caring? Well, yeah, those conditions, but now maybe with this new perspective, just like we've been doing in the book. So we've been saying, hang on a second, without a hell, how is there any punishment for the bad? Or how can that be just? Punishment isn't just, but... And it seems like there's so much injustice in our physical world, and there is, at every moment. So much. But from a different perspective of the whole, we can see that injustice seen as a part from a different perspective is part of a greater justice of the whole, playing out the implications of our former lifetimes, but also we have the potential to learn and change with the logos. So maybe this perspective on today's reflection might give you, I don't know, a different sort of insight. Nice soundboard. What do you mean?
Okay, go ahead, man.
They're completely lying to you. They're
You're
completely
lying to
lying.
Completely.
But I want to be clear, I'm not AI.
No, my soundboard is an AI.
Unbelievable sluts these days.
These days, the sluts are just unbelievable.
It is spam. They are trying to convince them to flood the internet with spam.
And if I do gain more financial security, I will have more time to invest in awesome, funny sound drops. At least I will feel alive, because I'll try, I'll probably fail, make mistakes, but it'll be more fun. Right, but in this game, there is no mistakes. Because if you're seeking excellence of yourself, then any mistake will be a reflection of the false image of yourself, which you can then use to do midwifery, which is the most important thing you can do. So long as you're seeking your most personally significant, meaningful goals and seeking them with excellence, there is no mistakes. If you deviate from your goal, that's a mistake that you can reflect on. because you recognize your purpose is to seek this excellence of self through self logos. So anything else is a manifestation of the false, unsuspected image of the self and the pathologos. It's only two things. And if you've got someone to talk with about those ups and downs and do dream analysis with, then it's a
win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win.
Win-win-win-win-win. Because the high states you can reflect on and understand to develop higher, and the low states you can reflect on to understand and free yourself from, so you don't have to go down from the high states. And this is the only kind of learning you can take with you into your reincarnation in either next life, if you reincarnate back into Hades, Earth, or your higher incarnations if you, as Socrates said on his last day, race to meet him where he is at, with better men who are having better conversations that you find here because they're humans who've completed their work here. They've done their job. This is what it means to do your job. And this is the kind of learning and nurture you can take with you. And as Pierre would say, every moment, when are you not doing this? When are you not into one of these books or reflecting on your dream or puzzling about through the dialectic on whatever you're interested in, or seeking excellence of the self in whatever you're doing? It's a win-win-win-win-win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
I'm cute. Like it's cutie pie.
Bro, my dream was okay, so dream analysis is interesting. So dream analysis requires time and reflection on the specifics. So I never do like pop dream analysis, pop psychology bullshit. Like there are like, it's the dialectic. There are stages of revision and review on your dream. You have to have written it out. You have to have recorded it straight away. Otherwise your beliefs and opinions will influence your memory of the dream. So you have to record it as soon as you wake up. You can use an AI transcription, but make sure you review the AI along with the audio to make sure you got it accurate. And then we write it on the board and we reflect step by step. So I can't do, it's not dream analysis like a dream book on Oprah's book club. Like, oh, you dreamed about a cat? That means you're going to meet the love of your life. He's going to be very handsome. And he's going to wear a backwards cap. This is a backwards cap. This isn't like a Jewish Ben Shapiro hat. This is a cap. See, look. So yeah, which is funny because I normally get two reactions when I mention dream analysis. People saying, I don't dream. Three, I don't dream. Oh, you won't want to look at my dreams. They're crazy. First of all, you do dream. You just haven't practiced remembering it. Second of all, every dream is meaningful. You're not crazy. Well, the third one, people will describe a dream they had. It's like, I can't do anything with that. I imagine it's probably the same thing with like modern psychotherapists. Oh, you're a modern shrink? My relationships always stink. Fix them. Well, that requires talking and you need to it's a proper thing. But you can take notes of your dream and write them down, and then as you learn the dialectic and you learn how to reflect, which is just tracing your way backwards through the dialectic, mapping the activity, the speaking and singing, looking for positives and negatives, blocks from the logos. What was the excellence or goal you had at the beginning? Those positives and negatives that played out in the drama, what were the states of mind associated with it? If you find a limiting state of mind, can you then trace that state of mind through your past? What's the earliest time you've had that state of mind? And can you find that earlier scene and do a dialectic on that? As you struggle to do any of those steps, all of the furniture, metaphors, symbolism, states of mind in the dream will be potential clues to help in your reflection. To see the significance in your present, to trace it back to your past, and to see how it's a warning of your potential future or a guide to a higher future. So past, present, and future. Practice them. See what you do. You can only get better. And the more that you practice and the more that you learn the dialectic, the better you're going to get at what may be the most important application of the dialectic. Well, along with midwifery, dream analysis. I know I'm not the only one who goes through these things. It's varying extreme. We're all in it. We're all in it. The thing that makes you special is you are one of the few people who are learning how to escape. Yeah, there is justice and injustice that we play out in our lives, that we suffer the implications from in our reincarnation. But that's not justice unless there's a potential for learning. This is the learning. Which is why I'm saying, hey, don't give up. Don't throw in the towel. You are very, very fortunate to come across, as someone who's been talking about this to everyone for many, many years. Fuck all people listen. Why? Because I'm talking about the logos. And what's a problem? A block to the logos. Meaning, if they're a human being, they're going to be blocked from listening to what I'm saying. The only person who's been able to talk to me properly has been Pierre Grimes. That includes all of the people who surrounded him, who've been working with him for like 50, 60 years even. Because the more you start talking about the logos itself, or the self itself, the self logos is what we're here to master, then your pathologos image of yourself and your pathologos beliefs surface to sometimes viciously shut it down. When I was in California, I was amazed. I thought I was just a wee small being doing this on my own in Australia. Surely when I went to meet the people in California who've been doing this for decades, they will value the self logos as much as me. And surely they'd love to spend every moment talking about the self logos dialectic, or doing dream analysis on midwifery to remove the pathologos. I was shocked to find that was not the case at all. So if you're someone who's come across the self logos and the understanding of the pathologos, and you're open to doing it, you're already ahead of 8 billion people on the planet. You've rolled a good roll. The difficulty is everyone else in this physical world that's playing out their pathologos in opposition to the self logos as being and the self logos as the self, otherwise they wouldn't be here, is going to be telling you otherwise. You weren't the big man on campus. You weren't the prettiest or wealthiest or most powerful. Therefore you suck. You've made a bad roll. Be like me. Buy my beauty products. That's the difficulty. That's why it takes courage to trust and act on, to see, speak, and act through the logos, even though your state of mind may be still influenced by the many. That's the virtue of wisdom and courage and keeping your cool and doing it all of the virtues, really. Keeping your cool in those ups and downs. But that's why I try and stream every day. At least there's 2 hours where we share the truth about the logos, even though everyone else on the planet is saying the opposite. Everyone else, not just the media and the politics and the religion controlled by the worst, but even normies, even regular folks. They're all blocked from the logos. They're all going to shut it down. They're all tied to their family clan traditions. But at least there's 2 hours each day, if I can, where practicing the truth, reading the logos. learning and nurturing into my soul the self logos, even though the world is saying the pathologos. But of course they are. They wouldn't be here if they weren't. They'd be with Socrates over here. And the more people in the game, the more fun we can have.
I'm looking for someone to share in.
So you've got a good role, even though it may not feel that way, and even though the world tells you otherwise. But that's why I'm trying to stream as much as I can. Yeah, caught up in the messages. How are we with time? Well, here I am saying I try and stream for 2 hours every day, and I've just hit the 2-hour mark. So we didn't read any further, but it was a good review of where we are at and the implications of where we're at and the significance of staying in the game. Don't give up. You've got a good role. Just the simple fact that you've gotten this far through this particular stream. Well, how many other people are going to be interested enough to go through this? So good role and stay in the game and don't give up. So next time, I think we're going to go back to Socrates' teacher Parmenides and see if we can learn what he was saying and also pick up the significance and value of dreams. And maybe we can take with us into that reading everything we've covered today. Good stream. Thank you for joining me, and thank you for our friend in chat for sharing her reflections. And yeah, take everything that you've had, bring everything together in your own understanding, your own dialectic, and then go out in the world and apply it and see what happens. And of course, ups or downs, it's always a win.
It's a win-win-win-win-win.
Because you can come back and reflect on both, because both, so long as you're seeking excellence in what's the most meaningful goals for you, must include the logos and the self, then whether you succeed or fail, those are still experiences. They're not as valuable as understanding. You can gain understanding from both. And for as long as you have on this planet, make use of that time. It's just that thing. And of course, don't give up on relationships, even though it's rare to come across someone interested in this kind of a thing. That's the kind of a thing we're after. So your relationship can be a practice of love and logos where you can move quickly along that path. And of course, if you do, share your success with us in the Discord and practice your dialectic with us so that we can all benefit from all of your work. It's a win-win-win.
It's a win-win, win, 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 win.
See?
Win,
We
win,
don't stop winning.
win, 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 win.
Thanks for joining, and well, fuck. I'll see you in the next one.